evening. My name is Mary Ryan, and I'm the president of the Exeter Area General Federation of Women's Clubs. Co-hosting with me this evening is Carol Waters. She is our membership and communications chair and longtime resident of Exeter. The Exeter Area GFWC is a women's service organization striving to enhance the lives of others. We are a nonpartisan 501c3 organization dedicated to serving Exeter and the surrounding communities in the Seacoast region. We are proud members of the General Federation of Women's Clubs, a part of thousands of women who are dedicated volunteers working in the community to lend a hand of support. The Exeter Area GFWC has a second club in this community, a club for middle and high school girls called Girls in Action, or GIA. They are very active. For more information about the Exeter Area GFWC, you can go to our website, www.eagfwc.org. We will be serving as your hosts this evening for the Exeter Voter Forum. Students that are members of the Exeter High School Government Club have formulated many of the questions and are participating this evening. To begin, we would like to introduce our facilitator for this forum, Steve Brown with New Hampshire Listens, and Alex Wall from Exeter High School Government Club. Steve?
Thank you. Thanks, Mary and Carol, and welcome to Alex. And thank you to all of the folks who worked hard on putting this together, especially the Exeter Area GFWC and the students from Exeter High. As Mary said, I'm Steve Brown, and I'll be facilitating this evening. My role and goals are to make sure that every candidate can share their ideas and aspirations for Exeter and Exeter schools with you, the voters, and also to make sure that we keep on time and are following the rules of engagement that all the candidates agreed to. I want to thank all the candidates for their willingness to run for and serve in public office. That is a real act of generosity and courage. And thank you to everyone in the audience who are participating tonight, whether that's by Zoom, Channel 98, YouTube, or Facebook. A quick rundown of the evening. We're going to begin tonight's forum by allowing candidates running for Exeter town offices 1 minute to introduce themselves. Then we'll move on to the Exeter Elementary School Board. That will be a forum. At 6 p.m., we'll move on to giving the Budget Advisory Committee candidates 1 minute to introduce themselves, and then we'll begin the forum for the co-op school board candidates. So with that schedule in mind, you might be able to pick and choose when you want to tune in and listen more carefully. The school board candidates will also have 1 minute to introduce themselves. Then the students from Exeter High School, the Exeter High School Youth and Government Club, will pose a series of questions to the candidates. These questions will be selected from the set that were sent to all the candidates last week. And as Mary said, those questions were formulated by the high school students. Due to time constraints, not every candidate will have the chance to answer all 6 questions. So they'll be asked 2 questions each, but they will be given some time at the end for a final statement. To answer questions, I'll have 1 minute and 30 seconds. My main role is to be the timekeeper and make sure things keep moving as we get into that. I'll be using a bell to let the candidates know when they have 15 seconds left in their response time. A second bell will indicate the end of their time. I'm going to allow a little bit of grace period for folks to finish a sentence, but if they go on too long, I'll interrupt with a third bell, and we don't want that. Third bell is not a good thing for us. If time permits, we'll pose some questions from the audience, so you can use the Q&A function in Zoom if you're on Zoom to do that. And unfortunately, if you're watching on another platform, there's no way for you to ask a question. Now, to begin the evening, I would like to invite the candidates for Exeter town offices to turn on their video, and we'll give you a chance to quickly introduce yourselves. If it's okay, we can start with Nancy Belanger, if she's here. I thought I saw her earlier.
I am. Good evening, everyone, and thank you to all of you who put this forum together this evening. My name is Nancy Belanger. I'm a lifelong resident of Exeter, and I'm running as a candidate to fill the one-year term as a select board member. In 2013, I was on the Budget Recommendation Committee. From 2014 to 2017, I was on the select board. I then decided to go back to committee work where I worked on the Budget Recommendation Committee and the Housing Advisory Committee. And in 2020, I joined the Planning Board as an alternate. I'm committed to a respectful approach and to decision-making process that serves the best interest of our community with a reasoned, balanced approach. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Nancy. I appreciate that. Julie Gilman, could you go? You're up next.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Steve, and thank you, Alex. It's a great opportunity to interact with the students. I, like Nancy, am a lifelong Exeter resident, although I have to say I did take about 20 years and I emigrated to Massachusetts because I got a degree in architecture and women weren't paid very much in the 1980s in architecture. So I moved to Massachusetts where I got paid more, but came back with my family. And Alex, I wanted to tell you my girls were in the government club, and my daughter prevailed with her bill on wearing uniforms to public schools. Anyway, about me, I grew up here. I've been serving on the select board since 2007, and I felt that I bring my experience to a relatively younger group, representing a different demographic than when I started. I really enjoy it. There's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of things to follow, and I think that I have the institutional knowledge to bring to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Appreciate that. Next, Nico Papakonstantis.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Pretty close. I'm Nico Papakonstantis, and I'm seeking a second term on the Town of Exeter Select Board. Over the past 3 years, I've established a reputation as a leader who is attentive to all, thoughtful, and fair. As chair of the board for the past 2 years, I've led with respect and dignity for all, with integrity, with civility, and with humility. Given the chance to serve another term, it will be with these qualities that I will continue to represent the Town of Exeter. Some of my goals and objectives include ongoing fiscal responsibility while continuing to advocate for our local businesses, supporting continued smart economic development without jeopardizing the integrity of our beloved downtown and surrounding conservation land, continuing to improve our infrastructure and identify and prioritize capital improvement projects, and striving towards becoming more sustainable and energy efficient. Most importantly, I will always passionately work to protect the public safety, health, and well-being of all of our residents. I am proud to have been part of the leadership team that vigorously worked to protect the health of our citizens during the devastating COVID-19 pandemic. I'm proud of the Town of Exeter being on the forefront, well ahead of the state in many instances. In closing, I am proud to serve our beautiful community, and I genuinely appreciate and respectfully request your consideration to re-elect me to the Town of Exeter Select Board. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Nico. And finally, we have a statement to be read by Mary from Dwayne Staples.
My name is Dwayne Staples, and I'm running for Swayze Parkway trustee again for another term. I apologize for not being at the meeting in person as I have a work commitment. I'm running to help the Parkway stay a viable green space for all the residents and visitors to the town to enjoy visiting. I am in hopes that we can all find common ground when it comes to dealing with issues on the Parkway. I must disclose that I am against closing the roadway permanently. I think that if the roadway is closed on a permanent basis, it does not allow for all the residents to enjoy the Parkway as they have done in the past. I feel that we should have a session where ideas can be exchanged as to how to come to that common ground for everyone to enjoy the Parkway. I want to ask you to please vote for me for re-election to the Board of Trustees for the Parkway. More importantly, I want to ask you to get out and vote. Respectfully submitted, Dwayne Staples.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. And I believe that is all of the Exeter Town candidates who are with us tonight. So now we'll turn to the Exeter Elementary Board candidates. Just a reminder that SAU 16 is made up of 6 towns: Exeter, Stratham, Brentwood, Kensington, East Kingston, and Newfields. Each town in SAU 16 has its own elementary school board. These boards oversee the schools in their towns by establishing the general rules within which day-to-day operations are governed. All members of the elementary school boards also serve on the SAU 16 Joint Board. The Joint Board approves the school calendar and supervises the superintendent. As you consider the candidates, keep in mind that public schools in New Hampshire exist to provide an appropriate educational opportunity for all children, and that all school board decisions and the actions of individual board members are guided by their commitment to prioritize what is best for students and what enhances student achievement. To begin, each candidate will have 1 minute to introduce themselves, and I'd like to invite Susan Drinker to start us off.
Okay. Hi, I'm Susan Drinker, and I wanted to thank you for hosting this forum. I'm really honored to be here tonight. Our schools and our community have always been and continue to be so important to me. It's been an honor to support Main Street and Lincoln Street schools for 30 years as a parent, grandparent, PTO co-chair, volunteer, and a teacher. I was a teacher for 27 years at both Lincoln Street and Main Street School, and prior to that, I taught at the Exeter Day School. I'm currently serving on the board of the Exeter Area Charitable Foundation and finishing up a term for our town library as a trustee. I was a longtime board member for Women Aid and also on the board of Richie McFarland Children's Center. So with a long history as a parent, a grandparent, a teacher, and a child advocate, I bring a unique background for analyzing and solving problems from various perspectives. I'm proud to have been a kindergarten teacher here in Exeter, and I'd love to continue this passion by serving on the board and be an active participant, listen with an open mind, and provide thoughtful guidance. I'll continue to advocate for our students, staff, and schools.
Thank you. Next, Heather Eichmeyer, if you're here. I'm not sure I saw you earlier.
Yes,
but
hello.
Yes, great, thank you.
Hi. As a parent, it's great to be here. Thank you for hosting. As a parent of 3 children in SAU 16, 2 in elementary school, I am delighted to be running for a 2-year term on the Exeter Elementary School Board. In October of last year, I stepped in to fill an open seat in the board after a previous member stepped down, and I currently serve on the policy committee and 2 committees focused on enhanced learning opportunities for students. I have dedicated my entire career to education and offer deep knowledge of current educational issues, policies, and best practices, as well as community engagement strategies. For the past 20 years, I have worked in arts education nationally, first as an educator, integrating theater into elementary grade curricula, then as a PhD student researching arts-based youth development practices, and currently as Deputy Director of Learning and Engagement for the National Guild for Community Arts Education. In this role, I'm responsible for building broad-based coalitions to support arts education programming and increase investment in arts education nationwide. As a board member, I am eager to apply my diverse experiences in education and community development to support a holistic education, review and improve existing school policies and practices to ensure all students have equitable opportunities to thrive, and to review and enhance internal and external communication processes to ensure clarity, transparency, and input. I am a lifelong learner, relationship builder, and listener who does not shy away from asking questions. And my decisions are grounded.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Heather. I've got to stop you. I apologize. Thank you. Kathy McKay, you're up next.
Hi, my name is Kathy McKay. Thank you again for hosting this evening. I have lived in Exeter for 27 years. I've had 3 kids go through the school system. My son is a senior who will be graduating this year. I was on the PTO for 5 years, and another 5 years I did special interests in the elementary schools for Lincoln Street and Main Street School. And I was just looking back to give back to the community again after some break in time. I am running for the 2-year seat. I am a write-in candidate. and I look forward to your vote.
Thank you, Kathy. Patrick O'Day.
Good evening. I'm Patrick O'Day. I'm a parent with 4 kids, and like most families, I moved to Exeter because of our excellent schools, and I found our teachers and paras to be just amazing. And as a side note, I would encourage folks to support the para-educator contract that's also going to be up for vote on March 8th. I have 2 daughters who went to Main Street and Lincoln Street, and I have 2 young sons who will be in Main Street before I know it. As a board member, I draw on both my academic and practical experience. On the academic side, I have a master's in education. I was in a PhD program in education, and when I went to law school, I came out as an education law attorney. On the practical side, I've been on the board for 16 years as a community representative, and I've been in committees ranging from negotiations to safety to wellness and academics. I wanted to say thank you to our hosts, particularly the students from the Exeter High School Government Club, and I'm looking forward to the conversation tonight.
Thank you, Patrick. And next is Talia King.
Hi, all. Good to see you tonight. My name is Talia King. I am running for the 3-year seat for the Exeter Elementary Board. I have 4 children, 2 older and 2 younger. The older 2 have gone through Northampton School, Exeter High School, and Winnicott, and my younger 2 are at Main Street School. In my professional life, I hold a senior management position at a large asset management firm where I have received extensive training in DEIJ and managing large teams, project management, budgeting. I think that I can bring that skill to conversations on the Exeter board. Where I arrived here today is that a couple of years ago, I started, emailing, showing up at meetings, board meetings, speaking with teachers. And what I really realized is that my engagement was very, very strong with the amazing teachers at the school, and the communication was very weak with the existing board. And I think I can bring a skill to enhance that communication for broader community input moving forward.
Thank you, Talia. And finally, Laura Knott.
Hi, thank you for hosting this event. I'm running for the Exeter Elementary School Board because I care about our children's education and I can offer a fresh perspective to the board. I have 2 young children and I want to get involved in their education to ensure Exeter schools remain great. I'm a lifelong New Hampshire resident and I've received an excellent public school education in Amherst, New Hampshire. I graduated from Sauhegan High School in the top 10% of my class. I attended the University of New Hampshire, where I majored in mechanical engineering and minored in business administration, and I graduated summa cum laude. I served on my high school's community council and as president of Tau Beta Pi, which is the Engineering Honor Society at UNH. I currently lead a team of engineers at my job in a Fortune 100 company. And through my experience as a leader, I understand the value of listening, supporting diverse perspectives, and promoting open communication. I want to collectively support our teachers, staff, students, and parents in creating the best academic, social, emotional learning environment possible for our kids. I take things to heart. I care deeply about our kids and families, and I want to help everyone. I'm a strong, empathetic leader and will work to support all of our kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. And thanks to all the candidates again for running. Now I will turn the floor over to Alex Wall and Lucy Perkins from Exeter High School for their question time.
Wonderful. Thank you, Steve. And good evening, everyone. I am Alex Wall, a senior at Exeter High School. I'm a resident of Brentwood and the president of Exeter High School's Youth and Government Club. Our mission as a club is to better educate ourselves and our peers about political issues, which is why we're so thrilled to be joining for questioning tonight. All candidates have seen the 6 questions prepared by our club, but they do not know which 2 have been assigned to them. With me in questioning the Exeter Elementary School Board candidates is Lucy Perkins, who is also a senior at Exeter High School and a member of the Exeter High School Talon, which is our high school's publication. This portion will consist of me asking a question, giving the candidate a minute and a half to respond, and then Lucy will ask another question to the same candidate. They will also have a minute and a half. Our first question tonight will go to Ms. Eichmeyer or Eichmeyer. The question is, what do you view as the most prevalent issues facing our schools and students today, and how are you distinctly qualified to create solutions?
Alexander. I view the most prevalent issue facing our schools today is addressing the impacts of the pandemic on our students academically, socially, emotionally, and physically. I believe this will require us to look at multiple data points that provide holistic information about students' academic and social and emotional well-being, and to have clear metrics and processes to understand and measure progress over time, and then to provide the necessary interventions and supports along the way. It'll also require us to listen to those closest to our students, our teachers, parents, and our adult supports, as well as those with expertise in core issue areas, so that we may collectively work to create solutions. And finally, it will require that our whole community start to come together to build trust and to listen to each other and heal. Our divides are ultimately hurting students. Students are whole people, and therefore the supports they need must be holistic. The shift to remote learning in 2020 arguably affected our elementary school students the most. Many in second grade were just learning their letters and basic math facts when the world shut down in the middle of their kindergarten year. I am proud as a board member that we have allocated resources for additional reading and math intervention specialists. And I look forward to working with the board and our teachers to identify clear ways to continue to measure progress and to be transparent with the school community about growth and the needs of our students.
Thank you. So for the second question for the same candidate is, what are the best ways to assess the quality of the learning experience provided by our schools?
So that's to me again, Lucy? Yes, Lucy. We need to be assessing the quality of our learning experience provided by our schools in multiple ways, and we need to be looking at inputs comprehensively. To start, I believe the design of all assessments need to respect differences in backgrounds and learning styles and allow more than one way for students to respond to educational and intellectual challenges. We must make sure that SAU 16's portrait of the graduate is clear and communicated to students, families, and community members in an ongoing way. I just support the development of school-wide expectations about what students should understand, what skills they should have, and what habits of mind they should be developing over time, and believe these expectations are in place, but not always clear to parents and community members. We should have clear learning goals and desired outcomes and standards at each grade level, clear metrics and transparent processes for measuring progress. Criteria should be informed by national standards, content specialists, and with input from the school community. I believe that there needs to be coherence across the grades of how students are being assessed. Assessing students holistically takes a lot of work and is a heavy lift for our schools and our teachers. And therefore, we need policies and systems in place that help teachers and administrators collect data and work samples, measure and reflect on process and progress. This can't be up to each individual teacher or grade level. Input should include formative assessments, student portfolios, and self-assessments, report cards and iReady scores that are integrated and easy to understand, standardized tests, and ongoing opportunities to collaborate and provide support and input as teachers and parents.
Thank you. The next candidate we will be moving to for questioning is Ms. McKay. And the first question for Ms. McKay is, what existing programs in our district, whether academic or extracurricular, would you work to expand and support as a member of the Exeter Elementary School Board?
Hi, Alex. So I've helped in the past with fun events and the students, and what Philly Sport bring back. Immediately, like the mention of road races, the carnivals, the winter carnivals, the Santa shop, and I'm actually actively working with friends now on possibly new activities and extracurricular activities to bring back into our schools very soon.
Great. And the second question for Ms. McKay is, have you sent your children to SAU 16 public schools? And if so, what is an aspect of our schools you have been satisfied with and you hope to implement on a wider scale? If your children have not gone to our schools, why?
Yes, I have sent all three of my kids to public schools. I've had two graduate from Exeter High School, and I have a third one that is a senior. I feel that this past year, these past 2 years for my senior have been difficult, where he's missed out on a lot of activities that normally you would get as a high schooler in that experience. But all three of my kids are very proud to be Blue Hawks. And have gone through the Exeter school system. They love the fact that the grade schools, they were with the same kids, and then they moved up to CMS, and 5 different towns moved into that area, and they got to meet kids from surrounding towns and actually become friends with them. So I believe in the public education, and I think that they've all had a wonderful experience through Exeter.
Thank you, Ms. McKay. The next questions go to Ms. King. And the first question is, there has been a lot of talk surrounding school rankings in our district. Could you define what a quality education means to you?
Yes, thank you. So first I want to address the buzz around school rankings, right? They are a measure. Right. So whether you trust the measure or you don't, they are a measure. They're a measure that has been touted in the past, and they are a measure that are used across the country and even globally, right, to measure where a school system is at. And we need to take that into account. Is that the entire quality of education? No, it's not. When I think of quality of education, I think of, okay, rankings, one of them. But I think of, what are our program offerings? How are we cutting edge? How are we comparing to other school districts? Are we offering the same programming that will set our kids up for the future? Are we offering the same program that'll make all the kids feel included, which I know we are, but are we, are we really getting into things? I've said this, anybody's heard me speak before has heard me say this, right? Global language is being offered in other school systems as standard curriculum. Keyboarding, typing is being offered earlier on, right? Those are just my 2 examples. But when I think of quality education, I think of broad program offering, and where do we stand with that? And then, I think of, I lost my thought on one piece of it. Let me come back in the end. Let me come back when I have my meeting at the end, my minute at the end. I know I have one more question.
Thank you, Ms. King. So your second question is, what existing programs in our district, whether academic or extracurricular, would you work to expand and support as a member of the Exeter Elementary School Board?
So it's interesting that I got these 2 questions back to back, because I was thinking that it's similar for me, right? Like, I think that this school district has done an excellent job of trying to incorporate programming, right? DIJ, STEAM, try to expand the knowledge base, expand the offering for the kids. But I would like to take that to the next level, right? And there's this issue of balance when you're making these decisions. There's this issue of, how do you get the kids back up to grade level from a pandemic? How do you make sure that all the kids are in the school and happy? How do you make sure that you're adding to the programming to make sure that it's cutting edge? And so that's what I would like to see expanded. I would like to see we are on the right track. We are on the right track in, putting out our reach, putting out our tentacles to broader programming. But I think we have a lot more to go in that area in terms of getting ourselves to where our programming is broad.
Thank you, Ms. King. The next set of questions will go to Mr. O'Day. And the first question is, what are the best ways to assess the quality of the learning experience provided by Exeter Elementary Schools?
All right, thank you, Alex. That's a good question. One thing we haven't talked about yet tonight is, and I do think it's part of looking at the quality of the experience, is how are your teachers and paraeducators doing? Are they satisfied? Are there opportunities for professional growth and development? Are they being fairly compensated? Do they feel valued? Do they feel heard? That's something that the school board does play a role in. It's not just parents and just students, but those educators that are working with our kids on a day-to-day basis. At the individual student level, I think rankings are a horrible way to look at quality. We have 3 schools that the Exeter School District is responsible for: the developmental preschool, the Main Street School, and Lincoln Street School. The developmental preschool and Main Street School did not participate in those state standardized tests. So rankings tell us nothing about 2 out of 3 of our schools. The way that we learn about the students in the schools and how they're doing is looking at it at an individual basis. We have a nationally normed and valid and reliable testing system called iReady. We can look at individual students and see where they're falling below grade level expectations, and then target them and challenge them so that they can they get that right mix of challenge and support so that they grow. So quality education has to be, has to meet those who are most vulnerable, but it also has to challenge our students who are academically advanced. That's a piece that we also don't tend to talk about a lot. We want folks to stay curious. We don't want folks to feel like they have to leave our school system because there's not enough there for them. So that's incumbent on our school system and our board to continue to guide that discussion.
Thank you, Mr. O'Day. Your second question is how will you use a seat on the Exeter Elementary School Board to ensure that students in the class of 2032 leave our schools best equipped to seek higher education, enter the workforce, or serve in our armed forces?
So Lucy, that's another good question. I think it's a combination of things. I mean, first of all, folks need to feel included. We have a program called, that we go by the moniker of DEIJ, that looks at diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice. And it's something that's been in our school district since 2018. We've been a bit cutting edge on that, in fact, long before there was an SAU position. It's something that we've quietly integrated into the classroom and the day-to-day experience. So when you look at things with DEIJ, if a student has a different diverse background, how are they integrated into our school system? In terms of equity, what if a student doesn't have food security in their family? We've worked with groups such as 68 Hours of Hunger to give backpacks to families over the weekend so that they come to school nourished and that they're ready to learn. In terms of inclusion, why is it that girls, by the time they get to middle school, tend not to raise their hands when they're in the classroom? And what can we do about that at the elementary school level? There's a lot of things that we can do to get, again, that right mix of challenge and support. I also want to talk about kids that are disabled. We have a developmental preschool. And so one of the ways that you look at students isn't just those that are sort of typical peers, but also those that come to us with a disability. What sort of goals are we setting for them? Are we helping them participate in the full curriculum? Our paraeducators are amazing with those folks, and every student should have an opportunity to graduate from our high school and look for something beyond.
Thank you, Mr. O'Day. The next set of questions will be for Ms. Knott. And the first question is, have you sent your children to SAU 16 public schools? And if so, what is an aspect of our schools that you have been satisfied with and you hope to implement on a wider scale? If your children have not gone to our schools, why?
I have 2 children who have not attended SAU 16 public schools yet because they're too young. They're still too young. My oldest is 3.5. My youngest is 8 months. But they absolutely will attend when they are old enough. That's the exact reason my husband and I moved here 10 years ago, was for the schools. And that's why I'm running, is to ensure that the public schools remain great, and for my children and for all of Exeter's kids. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you, Ms. Knott. And your second question is, what do you view as the most prevalent issue facing our schools and students today, and how are you distinctly qualified to create solutions?
I think the most prevalent issues facing our schools and students today are inequality, social emotional learning, mental health challenges, and academic achievement in that order. We want all of our kids to thrive, but not at the expense of their well-being or for impersonal metrics of academic achievement. I'll roll up my sleeves to find solutions to these significant problems based upon my own experiences as an accomplished student, as a leader at a Fortune 100 company, and as a mother of 2 young children. I believe that offering a fresh perspective to these challenges and a new view will add more value than those who've been working these same challenges for years without success. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Knott. And then for the last set of questions in the Exeter Elementary School Board phase will be for Ms. Drinker. And her first question is, how would you use a seat on the Exeter Elementary School Board to ensure that students in the class of 2032 leave our schools best equipped to seek higher education, enter the workforce, or serve in our armed forces?
Thanks, Alex. So looking ahead for the class of 2032, elementary school is a building block for their years ahead and for fostering their love of learning. We need to support our students in their lifelong love of learning from the kindergarten year forward. I saw a marvelous quote recently on social media that spoke to my heart and to this very question. This is an example of the building blocks of fostering love of learning. I'll quote it. Let there be half an hour of read aloud at the end of the day in primary schools up and down the country. Make this the half hour that they all long for, that they don't want to be over. Let the children go home dreaming the story, reliving it, and wondering. So by immersing our students in a love of learning, they all should go forward in their next steps of their lives successfully. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Drinker. Your second question is, what are the best ways to assess the quality of the learning experience provided by our schools?
Well, reports are given to the school board on standardized test results, and elementary administrators provide other formal and informal evaluations. Most of these assessments are measuring the learning outcomes of one or several of the following dimensions. So reading and language proficiency, mathematics and numeracy proficiency, and scientific knowledge and understanding. These reports give a general snapshot of the academic success, and they allow the Exeter Elementary Board to ask questions or probe more deeply if it's necessary. A pilot program here in the Exeter Elementary Schools for student-led conferences is going to be initiated this April at Main Street School by a few of their teachers, and other teachers can also opt into this new interactive initiative. Lincoln Street School initiated student-led conferences this past marking term. My granddaughter's at Lincoln Street School, and she really loved this new model. She felt connected to her curriculum, and she was given the setting and the opportunity to share with her parents. And I've seen this work firsthand also as my grandchildren at Swayze School in Brentwood have also been involved this year in student-led conferences. This opportunity invites both students to share and discuss learning with their parents and their teachers, and it identifies the strengths and the learning goals with parents and teachers and determines the next steps to improve learning. It's sort of a positive win-win for students, teachers, and families too. Thanks, Lucy.
Great. Thank you, Alex. Is that the end of your questions?
It is, yes.
That's what I thought. We do have several questions from the audience. I don't think we'll be able to get to all of them, but there were a couple people asked about House Bill 1617, which was introduced recently and proposes to redefine the state requirements for an adequate public education. And this is a question for the entire group, so we'll give everyone a chance to answer if they want. What is your understanding of the bill's implications, and what is your position on it? And anyone can jump in to start, and we'll just kind of, if you want to raise your hand, I can let you go. Go ahead, Talia, you went first, and then we'll go to Heather.
So I've tracked many of the bills very closely. This one I haven't tracked very closely, but my understanding of the bill is that it will no longer make some of the arts and other extracurriculars as a requirement within the schools, which I think is a very bad path and a very slippery slope. Am I speaking of the correct bill? Because I don't want to go too far down the path if I'm speaking about the incorrect bill. But I think that's a very slippery slope, right? I think the need for these programs in schools is great. I think the kids need hands-on experience. They need a diverse curriculum, and they need to have a part of their day that are things that they're excited about, that's not just focused on the math and looking at the paper. And I think you leave too much room to budgets and those types of decisions to cut these programs too easily if you don't have the right board members that will try to retain these programs within the schools.
Great, thank you. Heather, you raised your hand next, so go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. That is my understanding also, Talia, that these other topics would be not core requirements. There's actually research by the Search Institute that shows that actually a key dimension of why some young people thrive and other young people just get by is based on what they call sparks. And so sparks, if you think about it, are those things that give our students joy, a sense of connection and internal motivation, like this is who I am and how I want to express myself in the world. And many of those topics that are kind of often the first things, like the arts, extracurriculars, whether it's in the school day or after school, are often the things that are first to be cut when budgets are tight. But they're often the things that our students need the most, that really give them a sense of passion, and that teachers really have a responsibility, I think, to encourage and to foster and think about how to engage students around. And so I think cutting those things as core requirements of our curriculum really are a disadvantage, especially, and it's also an equity issue, is that many students don't have opportunities to have those introductions and those engagements outside of the school day. So I would not be in favor.
Thank you. Heather, is any of the other candidates want to speak to this?
I do.
Go ahead, Susan. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Well, an elementary school definitely focuses and provides the basics of all subjects that are taught, like reading and writing and arithmetic. But getting their students immersed in computer education and exposing them to science and social studies and arts and music and physical education, they all provide the foundation for an equity in our society. They're so invaluable. I am totally opposed to this bill. It would take away the opportunity for exploration and hands-on activities and time for children to talk about their ideas and ask questions and share what they've learned. They learn best when they can actively explore materials and ideas. So I certainly hope that this bill goes nowhere, actually. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Susan. I saw Patrick, and then we'll go to Laura. That was the hands raising there. So go ahead, Patrick.
I don't think you're going to get a lot of difference between the candidates here on this question, because I think we're all in agreement. My understanding of the bill is that it's not so much that it eliminates these programs, but it gives local control. It no longer makes it part of the core curriculum. And so local school districts can make a decision about whether or not they want to retain those programs. And as Talia pointed out, there's a potential in the future that you could have some board that's trying to cut costs and ends up cutting a program that I think we would all agree is part of a foundational sort of experience. Howard Gardner wrote a book called Multiple Intelligences years ago that talked about it's not just through things like reading and math that people show their intelligences, but sometimes it's through things like art or music. I've worked as a legal counsel for the Granite State Arts Academy, which is a charter school for high school students, and I've seen students that don't otherwise connect with a traditional curriculum that really flourish in those sort of environments. So I am absolutely opposed to the bill even though there would still be the opportunity locally to retain these programs, I think it's part of a core curriculum.
Thank you, Patrick. And Laura, go ahead.
I think the goal of a school is to raise good citizens. So we do that by teaching kindness and empathy, and as well as establishing a penchant for curiosity. So at the elementary levels, this means finding activities that the kids get excited about, that makes them want to learn, that provide a strong academic foundation. So through these activities and keeping kids engaged, they'll learn the different types of activities that they enjoy. They'll learn critical thinking skills. They'll learn effective participation in teams. All of those things are critical to becoming successful adults. So we want our kids to thrive in a way that's most appropriate for them as individuals. As an engineer, I certainly believe in having a strong math and science education and curriculum. I think that's very important. But I also think that innovation would not be possible without the creativity found in the arts, in writing, in music, visual arts, crafting, sewing, woodworking, etc., cooking. These classes and clubs are sometimes the only exposure a kid has to these disciplines. And it's important to support them to ensure that kids can be innovative communicators in the future. I would definitely reject this bill again because of the equity issue as well. We want kids to be exposed to these different things so that they can continue being creative learners.
Great, thank you. I think it's everyone who's spoken who has wanted to speak. If any of the candidates who haven't spoken, just quickly raise your hand. If not, I think we have time for one more question before final statements. And so this one, I think, is a kind of pushed together things from different questions from the audience. But what's one current policy that you most want to change, a policy or program that you most want to change? Why do you want to make that policy or program change, and what do you propose doing differently? And again, this is for anyone.
Oh.
Go ahead, Pat.
I'll jump in with something here. I'll be brave. So first of all, I would say that there's not something burning that comes to mind for me, honestly, that needs to be just thrown out and changed. But I think, I want to pick up on something that Talia mentioned before, which is she indicated that her communication with the board wasn't good. And I do think it's not a policy so much as a practice, that I've heard that message, that some parents feel like they haven't been heard. And as much as I consider myself to be a good listener, we operate as a board, and I'm certainly don't talk to every parent that's out there. And we need to work harder to make sure that every parent feels heard. So to that extent, one change that I'm going to encourage our board to consider, and I'm going to mention it on Tuesday night. It could be my last board meeting, or it could be the first of before the next term. But I'm going to encourage our board to consider adding more community members to our committees. We currently only have 2 committees that I'm aware of, the Safety and Security Committee and the DEIJ Committee, that have parents and other community members. But there's other opportunities. We have an Enhanced Learning Committee that looks at academics, and we certainly could be involving more parents in that group, for example.
Thank you. Talia, I saw you pop back up. Did you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I wanted to thank Patrick for bringing that up, right? Because that popped to my mind as well, is that it's not a policy, but it is very important, right? Without, an idea, without engagement is just an idea, right? You cannot drive change without that engagement. So I appreciate you bringing that up, Patrick. I know we have both spoken about that. The other thing I would just say on this, right, is I'm not a current board member. I am a passionate parent that has found a newfound passionate passion for the school board and the experience of the kids and the teachers and all of the community members. And I think part of what we should all be looking to do, and I would certainly be looking to do, is to understand these policies and work with the community members to make sure that we are driving policy change where we should and enhancing policies that we have in place where we should.
Thank you. Yes, I saw Heather and then Laura.
Similarly, it's maybe not a policy, but a practice. I'm a New England, I grew up in New England, but I moved back in 2020. And so I moved my family here during the pandemic. And so I think one of the things I hear as I talk to other parents and community members is sometimes just not always understanding. I guess a practice I would like to see is just more transparency and communication about how students are being assessed, and particularly understanding what is behind the new competency-based learning and ALMA report cards. So the report cards now show, if a student is developing or proficient in a particular content area, and then there's some feedback from the particular teacher. But it's not always clear what the portrait of the graduate is, what the grade level expectations are, and then what are the benchmarks towards moving from developing to proficiency, et cetera. Not that they don't exist, they do exist, but I think sometimes they're not always communicated in the clearest or most open and ongoing way. And so as a newer parent to the district, I even have found, some of the reporting confusing, and the integration, or sort of the lack of integration between the report cards and the iReady scores. So I would really work as a board member to enhance that communication, that transparency, so that parents can really understand how student learning and growth is being measured and discuss.
Thank you. Thank you, Heather. And Laura.
Along those communication lines, I do think that we found through this pandemic a benefit of Zoom meetings. I mean, I know everybody hates them, but I think it allows access to people that otherwise wouldn't necessarily have access to these meetings, people who can't get out yet, who are voters and who are paying for schools, people who can't necessarily get out. Parents who want to listen, but it's at dinner time, so they can't leave or they can't get a babysitter. So I think not just broadcasting through Exeter TV or Zoom, but also allowing participation through those avenues would be a really nice thing to add to the board meetings. Again, it's not really a policy, but another way to openly communicate with the community.
Great, thank you. And I see Kathy, you've got your hand raised. You're up.
I would like to see better communication between the community and the board, a renewed focus on academics so that we can catch up to where we were before the COVID pandemic. I want to work to improve the academic integrity of our schools and make sure spending is done that prioritizes children and teachers. I am direct and to the point. I take my time before making important decisions by learning all I can about the issues. When serving on the school board, I think that is important to understand all the viewpoints before making a decision. One needs to be able to ask the tough questions.
Great. Thank you. And Susan, Susan, I'm watching the time, so I'll allow you to answer this, but then you can roll into your final statement, and if that's okay.
Sure. Well, I think an important part of the board, and something that they do and have committees that involve the staff, I think it's so important for us as a board to keep that connection there, to keep it open. Our educators work tirelessly to provide the best learning opportunities possible during these unprecedented times. And I think continuing to listen to them, the parents, the community members all provide us an opportunity to reevaluate and invigorate our programs. I am a huge proponent of our administration, our teachers, our staff, but especially our students, and making that connection as a board member is very important, I feel. So a little bit of closing, I guess, just to say that I'm a strong proponent of public schools, having taught here in Exeter at both Lincoln and Main Street School as a first grade teacher, a readiness teacher, and a kindergarten teacher for 27 years. And my children, my 3 children, all went through the Exeter school system. We didn't have public kindergarten when they were in school, but their success in large part was due to their teachers and the passions that they instilled in them to be lifelong learners, and the dedication of their time and their love and passion that they put into meeting the needs and challenging their students is something that we all should be thankful for. As a board member, I want to stay connected with our teachers and our paras, listen to them, and understand that what they need to continue to provide the best education here in Exeter. And I would really appreciate your support and vote on March 8th. Thanks very much.
Great. Thank you, Susan. I appreciate that. So for everyone else, about a minute for closing statements or closing ideas. I'm going to go in reverse order. So Laura, you're up here.
Thanks. Thank you again for hosting this event. It's a great opportunity to have all the candidates together in one forum. I really appreciate that. You guys have heard my background and know, that I don't have an academic background. And I think that's an asset to be, as a mom, coming into this with a different perspective that I'm obviously a smart person. I research issues. I look into what other schools are doing, what works for other areas, and I'll try to bring that to our school district for the issues that we need to address. I really value listening. I listen before I speak, and I want to promote open communication with the community. I also want to collectively support our teachers, administrators, and staff in bringing the best social, emotional, and academic education to our kids as possible. If you'd like any more information on me, you can check out my website, lauranotforexeter.org, or you can feel free to email me there. Thank you, and I sincerely hope you consider voting for me on Tuesday.
Thank you, Laura. Talia.
Hi. So I guess I would wrap up with that. I really do care about this. The divide in the community is really eating me from the inside out. One of my greatest strengths that I've been told, and in my opinion, is that I can bring people together. I'm empathetic and transparent by nature. I can't live without transparency because it makes me too anxious to not have all facts and all information out on the table for an honest conversation. And that is what I will bring to the board. And I will learn as much about it as I can as quickly as possible to be able to bring that skill to all the topics at hand. And the other thing I would add is, there really has been a lot of focus on the academics here, which of course is very important, but we also need to get some of the fun back into the schools for these kids, especially, in Main Street School. We got to get back to 2 recesses. We got to start adding some of the extracurriculars back. We have to start adding some of the field trips. These are the things that keep these kids happy and headed to school so that they can learn the other things.
Thank you, Talia. Patrick.
And thank you. There's a couple of things I wanted to add that folks may or may not know about me. I had some really unique experiences in my life where I lived as a student in Luxembourg and went to a French-speaking school. I worked as a French interpreter on a gold expedition in West Africa. I lectured about education in Kazakhstan on a State Department project. And all those things are just really unique experiences that open up my eyes to sort of challenging core assumptions and being open to diverse perspectives. So So I consider myself to be a creative problem solver, consider myself to be a good listener, and consider myself to be very curious. And those are the sorts of attributes you need in a good school board member. One other thing we didn't get a touch on tonight is just that the school board has two responsibilities that I want to say quickly. One is to the taxpayers, and I keep that in mind. And the second is that we can't be a rubber stamp for the administration. So I would never be that. I hope you will consider me on March 8th, and thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Kathy, if you have anything else you'd like to say.
Thank you for holding this forum for us tonight. I'd like to wrap up. I'd like to say that I appreciate you letting me join here last minute. And if you elect me, I intend to be a positive, calm voice between the parents, teachers, and the administration. I am in no way a political person. I'm a mom and a resident of Exeter for 27 years. I've developed and maintained amazing relationships with teachers and parents. I know I can be a leader we need right now to unite our community and move forward so our teachers can provide the best well-rounded education possible for our children. I would like you to write my name in. I'm a write-in vote on March 8th. Just get out and vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. And we'll finish tonight with Heather.
Thank you, and I want to thank you all for hosting, and especially want to thank our students for their thoughtful questions and moderation as well today. I just want to emphasize that I am a people person. I am engaged listener. I'm a theater artist. I love hearing people's stories. I love listening. I love asking really hard questions, and I'm curious. And I have dedicated 20 years of my career to creativity and education. My entire work life is about bringing people together with diverse perspectives in different roles, young people, teachers, policymakers, funders together, to think about creative ways of solving challenging issues in education and youth development. I bring voices and perspectives from a national level, as well as my own perspective as a working mom of 3 young people in SAU 16, 2 in our elementary schools. It would be an honor and a privilege to continue to serve on the Exeter Elementary School Board. I hope that you come out and support me on Tuesday for the 2-year term, and I look forward to continued collaboration with all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you to all of the candidates for the elementary school board. Really appreciate, again, your time tonight and your generosity in wanting to serve the town of Exeter and all the students and parents there. We're going to turn now to the second half of the evening, and we'll begin by inviting each candidate for the SAU 16 Budget Advisory Committee to take a minute to introduce themselves. I think we're all here, and I think we're going to start with Meg Bateman, if you're ready to go.
Hi, yes, thank you, I am. Thank you for having me and hosting this forum. I'm happy to be here. My name is Meg Bateman, and I'm running for the Exeter seat on the Budget Advisory Committee. I've lived in Exeter for 10 years with my husband, Tim, and our 2 boys who have attended each of the Exeter schools since preschool and are now in 7th and 9th grade. I'm a corporate finance attorney, and I'm currently vice president of legal for an international renewable energy company. The Exeter Budget Committee seat came open this year, so I decided to run because after attending some of the Budget Advisory Committee meetings and school board meetings over the past few years, I feel like a lot of decisions are made at the Budget Committee level with their recommendations to the school board. And I think I can provide a fresh perspective on that board, working collaboratively with the entire committee to focus the budget on discrete items that will help students, and particularly focusing on the ways we can assist educators and students after these difficult past 2 years. I've served the community for the past 10 years through volunteering in the elementary schools and on the board of Great Pay Kids, Children's Museum, the Seahawks Youth Football, and I'm currently on the football boosters for the high school. And I hope to continue my service on the Budget Advisory Committee. Thank you for taking the time to listen tonight to all the candidates, and I would appreciate your vote on March 8th. Thank you.
Thank you, Meg. Appreciate that. Trish Cox, Hopefully, I think you're here, maybe not.
Yep, I'm here.
Yep.
I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Sorry about that. I got lots of people on the screen. Apologize.
Yes, no, there are a lot. So first of all, I just want to give a big thank you to this forum and most importantly, the students who are moderating and facilitating. I hope that what you will remember about what I've said is that I do have my master's in special education. I've worked in public education for many years in special ed, and I also have a son who is a junior who's had an incredible educational experience with every single teacher he's had since his kindergarten year through to his junior year now. I'm running for the Newfield seat on the SAU Budget Advisory Committee because given my lifelong commitment to public education as a certified special educator, child life specialist, licensed and certified school social worker, I believe my experience is well suited for this role. I have worked as an educational consultant in New Hampshire for a variety of different organizations and institutions. I'm currently on the social work faculty as professor at UNH since 2014. And prior to my time at UNH, I was employed as a special ed coordinator and school social worker for the Portsmouth School District. I've also worked as a child life coordinator at a pediatric cancer center for 9 years. I have my bachelor's in science from Trinity College and my MSW also from UNH. I have a strong history of leadership within New Hampshire and also national nonprofits, and I've held the position as board director for the Child Life Professionals and also treasurer for this organization. I also currently am serving as trustee of the trust fund for Newfields, and I have been president of NASW in New Hampshire, which is National Association of Social Workers.
I'm sorry, Chris. I've got to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
Okay. Nope, that's okay.
I apologize.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Robert Delory, you're up.
Hello, I'm Robert Delory, running for the Budget Advisory Committee seat representing Exeter. I've been a finance and accounting professional for more than 30 years. So I'm a bean counter by nature, comfortable with numbers, but fiscally a little cautious and conservative, which I think is important for this job. More than half of my career I've been working in the educational travel industry. And in that role, I've gotten to work extensively with middle school and high school teachers. So my perspective is very much influenced by those that I work with, and I have a lot of sympathy for teachers and what happens in the classroom. So I think I have a good balance of, I'm fiscally cautious, but I think we need to, spend what needs to be spent to support the schools and support the teachers and maintain the high quality education that we have in SAU 16. I have been on the committee for 6 years, so I also know how it works, I think. And this past year, my peers asked me to be the chair of the committee, which was an honor. And if elected to serve again, hopefully there will be more improvements that we can continue to make in the process. I'm also the treasurer of the Elementary PTO.
Sorry, Robert, I've got to interrupt you. I apologize.
You cut off the PTO experience. That's it.
You snuck it in. Good job.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Pat Gillis. Pat, I'm sorry, you're still muted. Yep.
There we go. Thanks, Steve. My name is Pat Gillis. I'm running for the BAC. My wife, Robin, and I have lived in Stratham for 22 years. We have 3 kids. My youngest is actually a senior at Exeter High School, Shea. All 3 went through the SAU 16 school system from start to finish. I'm running for the BAC because of a couple of different reasons. I have the skill set to ask pertinent questions and make suggestions to uncover areas where funds could potentially be used in a more efficient manner. I'm also concerned that the budget continues to increase, but the ranking and enrollment at the SAU is decreasing. And I think I can help uncover ways to combat this from a financial perspective. When my kids were young, I coached a lot of youth sports for years. And now that they're grown, I've got the time and, more importantly, the ability to serve my community on the BAC. I've been a financial advisor for 14 years, last 8 independent. I work with businesses and individuals and financial plans every day, and I take complex financial information and make it easy to understand. You don't have to have school-specific experience to review and understand a budget. I deal with them every day. I'm asking for your vote on March 8th. If you have any questions, please email me, patjgillis@comcast.net. Thanks, Steve.
You're welcome. Thank you, Pat. And we'll finish with Heidi Hansen.
Hi, I'm Heidi Hansen. I'm running for the open stratum seat on the Budget Advisory Committee. I'm married with 2 high school age students. I have a master's degree in administrative management and public administration. I'm a small business owner. I'm the chair of the board of directors of the nonprofit Seacoast Women's Giving Circle, a current member of the Stratham Elementary Schools Finance Advisory Committee, and I'm a former chair of the Stratham School Board. So Budget Advisory Committee members represent the taxpayers in all 6 Exeter region towns. They're the eyes and ears of taxpayers, and as such have a duty to ensure that proposed school budgets are fiscally responsible and operationally sound. I take this duty very seriously in my role on Stratham's Finance Advisory Committee and would continue to do so on the Budget Advisory Committee for the Co-op School District. I'm well versed in public budgeting processes, have experience navigating the various state statutes that govern school districts and school budgets, and would be a respectful, collaborative, and responsive voice on the Budget Advisory Committee, and hope you will consider voting for me on March 8th.
Great, thank you. And I believe that's all the candidates for the Budget Advisory Committee. If I've got that wrong, please let me know right now. And so thank you to all of you and good luck on Tuesday. Now we'll turn to the candidates for the SAU 16 Co-op Board. Just a reminder that the public schools in New Hampshire exist to provide an appropriate educational opportunity for all children, and that all school board decisions and the actions of individual board members are guided by their commitment to prioritize what is best for students and what enhances student achievement. The schools of Exeter, Stratham, Brentwood, Kensington, East Kingston, and Newfields are part of the Cooperative School District SAU 16. Once students leave their respective elementary schools, they become part of the cooperative school experience. This includes the Cooperative Middle School, Exeter High School, Seacoast School of Technology, and the adult education programs. These schools are governed by the Exeter Region Cooperative School Board. According to the current cooperative school agreement, Exeter has 3 seats on this board, Stratham has 2, and Newfields, Kensington, and East Kingston, and Brentwood each have 1 seat. The Co-op Board establishes the general and overall day-to-day rules for the schools under its jurisdiction, and all members of the Co-op Board also serve on the SAU 16 Joint Board. The Joint Board approves the school calendar and supervises the superintendent. In tonight's forum, as you heard earlier, students from the Exeter High School Youth and Government Club will pose a series of questions to the candidates. These questions are selected from a set of 6 that were sent to all the candidates last week. Due to time constraints, each candidate will be asked only 2 of these questions. Candidates will have 1 minute and 30 seconds for answers. Hopefully that you will respect the bells. The first bell will let the candidates know that they have 15 seconds left in their response time. A second bell will indicate the end of their time. We will give candidates a few seconds grace to finish up a thought, but hopefully they will not abuse that privilege, and because we don't want to interrupt them. To begin, we'll have candidates introduce themselves. They'll have 1 minute for that, and we'd like to invite Joseph Cahill to start us off.
Hello. My name is Joseph Cahill, and thank you very much for allowing the candidates this forum to introduce ourselves tonight. I'm running for the Exeter seat on the Cooperative School Board, and I live in Exeter with my wife, 2 dogs, my 2 daughters, and I am a member of the Exeter business community. I've worked in business management for over 25 years. My 2 daughters both go to school here in the Exeter School District. My wife and I have grown concerned by the troubling academic rankings and shrinking enrollment over the last 2 years. I believe this is simply due to misallocation of budget resources and overspending on school administration. I believe if we put our teachers and students in a position to be successful, they'll be exactly that, successful. I think my experience of over 25 years managing people, budgets, and forecasts will give me all the tools necessary to help put them exactly in that position. It's true that I don't have experience in an elected position, but I think what the board truly needs is a fresh perspective, a personality that will ask tough questions and create conversations that will help this board be successful in protecting and enhancing the education of the students of the SAU 16. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And let's move on to Kim Casey.
Thank you for having me to the Exeter Women's Group and High School Government Club and the New Hampshire Listens, sorry. My name is Kim Casey. I am running for school board as the East Kingston Cooperative board member. It's a one-year term, and I am excited to be considered for the board because these are really troubling times in our world, and I think that public education is the foundation of our democracy, and I really would like to be part of that and have the experience I think that I need, that board needs at this particular time. All three of my kids have gone to Exeter through the Exeter systems, our East Kingston and Exeter systems. All three of them were very different students. One was a special ed student, but at the time that they were in the schools, what I was most impressed was that the Exeter school systems have always been able to meet the needs of the student from a very individual basis. And that is really their focus. And I think that's important.
Sorry, Kim, I have to cut you off. I apologize.
Sorry.
So thank you. Bob Hall, you're up next.
Good evening, and thank you for holding this forum. I am a lifelong resident of SAU 16. I went to Exeter schools. I was born in Exeter. Went to Exeter schools, graduated in the class of 66 from Exeter High School, and I moved down the road to Drinkwater Road, and now I live just over the town line, so I'm running as a representative to the co-op board from the town of Kensington. We've been here, my wife and I have been here since 1979. I'm one of three generations of graduates of the Exeter schools. My first is my mother, who's watching this tonight. She's 100 years old, and she graduated from the Robinson Female Seminary in class of 41. My son graduated from Exeter High School in the class of 1990. Exeter, I'm proud to be a Blue Hawk. It's a great school system. There's been a lot of questions thrown around about it, but it's solid. It's wonderful, great opportunities for the students. And I can't say enough about it, and I'll explain it in my questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob. I appreciate that. Next is Melissa Hanlon.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for having me tonight. My name is Melissa Hanlon. I'm running for the Brentwood seat for the Cooperative School Board. I've lived with my family in SAU 16 since 2004. My husband, Dan, is a 5th grade teacher at Lincoln Street Elementary School, and my daughter, Amelia, is a freshman at the high school. My daughter, Nora, is in 7th grade at the middle school. I myself am a proud product of a public education in Cape Cod, Massachusetts. I feel like my education has served me really well in my lifetime, and I think it's really important that as a community we commit to providing quality public education for the children in the community for the foreseeable future. In my professional life, I'm an attorney. I'm a partner at Sullivan & Hollis in Concord, New Hampshire. I'm running because I think I can be a really positive contributor to the school board. I think it's good to have some different voices involved in the decision making, and I know that I can be a strong voice for students in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Ted Lloyd.
Good evening. My name is Ted Lloyd. I'm a co-op board candidate and actually a member right now. 18 years ago with my wife, I moved to New Hampshire and we settled in East Kingston. We always believe in service to the community. I've been a member of the new library building committee here in town. I've served 2 terms on the salary review committee and the planning board for several years. I've been a library trustee for 10 years and a trustee of the trust fund since 2012, which I currently hold. In August of last year, I asked the selectmen to appoint me to fill a vacancy, and they chose to do that, and I joined the board in September. Since then, I've learned that the board is really divided. There's now, with me, there's 2 or 3 of us that are interested in making change, and the rest are not. So I'm a candidate for change to the board.
Thank you. Next, Kimberly Myers, please.
Hi, Steve. Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for hosting this tonight. It's a great opportunity to get to know all the candidates better. My name is Kim Meyer. I'm running for re-election to the Cooperative School Board because I believe in strong public education for all kids. My 4 children are Blue Hawks. We moved here over 16 years ago for the public schools, and I really want to thank the teachers, administrators who have given our children a great start in life, and the taxpayers who have always supported strong education. I'm a trained attorney, which helps me understand various perspectives. I've worked in banking for several years as well, so I understand finance and budgeting, and I'm currently the CEO of the Y in Camp Lincoln in Exeter. I proudly serve alongside over 100 dedicated staff. I believe in strong civic engagement and giving back to our special 6-town community. I know our SAU is not perfect, but I believe it's an excellent school district that is given generous resources by our taxpayers. I'm concerned about the divisiveness and what has always been a supportive, close-knit community, and I look forward to bringing my knowledge, integrity, and experience to the board again. I want to continue to be a positive voice for all children across the SAU. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. And then we have one candidate who was not able to be here tonight, but he had prepared a statement. Mary, are you able to read that now? Wonderful. Thank you.
Carol's going to read Scott's, and we actually got one while we were sitting here of another candidate who just came back from vacation. So I'll be reading hers afterwards. It'll be Jen Ma.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, this is from Scott Dennehy, Brentwood, New Hampshire. Here is my statement. Sorry, I won't be able to attend. My name is Scott Dennehy, and I'm running for the Brentwood seat on the Exeter Regional Cooperative School District Board on March 8th. For the past 20 years, I have lived in Brentwood with my wife, Tina, and our 3 children, all a product of the SAU 16 school system. We continue to choose Brentwood for its small town charm and access to the superior education of SAU 16 schools. I served on the Swayze parent faculty group for 7 years in several roles, including president. I then served for 2 terms elected as a member of the Swayze School Board. During my time on the board, I was always an advocate for what was best for the students at Swayze. I had the pleasure to be elected vice chairman of the board for several years of my fellow board members. I served on the SAU policy committee as well as the committee for teacher contract negotiations. I have been I have practical knowledge of how SAU 16 operates, who the key stakeholders are, and who to go to get answers when needed. For the past 6 years, I have been able to balance work, life, home life, school board responsibilities, giving each the dedicated focus they need. We need someone who will represent not just Brentwood, but all 6 towns in the Exeter Regional Cooperative School District Board in a fair, common sense way, someone who can focus regularly on the tasks at hand and remain objective. We need to come together with a common sense approach for schools, one rooted in data, facts, student welfare, and fiscal responsibility with students and staff in mind. If elected, my vote would have to. That's okay. Yeah. I didn't write this, but that was from Scott Dennehy. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Carol. And Mary.
Okay, I have one. My name is Jen Ma from Kensington, New Hampshire. I'm writing to announce my candidacy for the Kensington SAU 16 Co-op School Board. My husband and I moved to this community 20 years ago because we knew we wanted to start a family and have our children go to the school that was one of the top schools in New Hampshire. We have a 9-year-old who attends a private school and a 14-year-old who is a freshman at Exeter High School. SAU 16 used to be one of the top districts in New Hampshire. People moved to this district so their kids could attend a school district with an excellent reputation. However, with significant decrease in the rankings in SAU 16 over the past couple of years and the decrease in academics in our district, we need to focus on bringing back traditional education to our children. My goal as a member of the school board will be to make sure that every student receives the quality of education they deserve. We need a school board that understands their roles and represents the parents, teachers, children, and residents of this community. We need transparency, communication, and above all, respect from school board and administration. I want to be the voice for the parents, teachers, children, and residents of this community. I'm very passionate about my children and every child's education. My family and I have discussed as a family the commitment if I am to get elected to the school board, and I have their complete support. I'm a very hardworking individual who can manage what I take on, so I won't let you down. Throughout my career working on human resources, I've been involved in team building and conflict resolution programs. Please get out and vote on March 8th. We need your vote so we can make a change for our children in the future. Spread the word to all your friends and family in the district.
Thank you. Just a reminder to everybody on Zoom as we turn to the question and answer period of the evening, that if you're on Zoom, you can use the Q&A, and many of you are already doing that, to pose questions to the candidates. We'll have our students from Exeter High School pose their questions first, and then if we have time after that, we'll move to questions from you all. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Alex Wall and Will Olszewski from Exeter High School. Thank you, Alex and Will.
Yes. Hi again, everybody. Once again, I'm Alex Wall, a senior at Exeter High School and part of the Youth in Government Club. Joining me in questioning for the co-op school board candidates is Will Olszewski, a senior at Exeter High School and a member of both the Talon, our school's publication, and the Youth in Government Club. The questioning for the second portion of this program will flow the same way. I will ask a question and allow the candidates a minute and a half to give their responses, and then Will is going to pose a second question to the candidates, also again, a minute and a half for response. The candidates, have seen all 6 questions, but they do not know which 2 they have been assigned. We will now move into questioning, and our first question will go to Mr. Lloyd. Mr. Lloyd, in your view, what are the best ways to assess the quality of the learning experience provided by our schools?
Thank you, Alex. There's been a lot of talk about the quality of education provided by our district. It's focused on school rankings, and it's interesting that the administration has touted school rankings when the SAU 16 was one of the top schools in the district. Since that's no longer the case, they've decided to disparage school rankings as any kind of an indication of the quality offered. I believe that school rankings can be very useful in tracking the trends of a school from past years through current years. And unfortunately, in SAU 16, the trend is negative, and that needs to be changed.
Thank you, Mr. Lloyd. My question to you is, what existing programs in our district, whether academic, vocational, or extracurricular, would you work to expand and support as a member of the SAU 16 Co-op School Board?
Thank you for that question, Will. I really have a problem with programs as such. I think we need to move away from programs of the day, fad programs, and focus on the basics of providing a solid academic education to our children. Reading, writing, math, science, those have got to be our primary programs. I would add that secondary emphasis on history, social science, and physical education would be added to that. I would advocate for an ongoing review by the board of all the programs currently being run in the SAU and paring those down that are not consistent with the board's long-term goals to provide a quality education to our population. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lloyd. The next group of questions will go to Ms. Casey. And our question first for Ms. Casey is, what do you view as the most prevalent issues facing SAU 16 schools and students today, and how are you distinctly qualified to create solutions?
Thank you for the question. It's an excellent one. The first thing I want to say is one of the really important things that I have been watching over the last year is the divisions that have been set up based on this notion of academic rigor and failing schools in SAU 16. Nobody on a board shouldn't be aspirational. We should all be aspirational as to that issue. But the question is, what is the process to get us moving forward? We have a limited number of dollars because we have taxpayers, and we have a multitude of different learners and learning styles, all of which I feel are important to be addressed. I really have to, I just need to stop for a second and say I am very disappointed to hear that Ted Lloyd thinks our programs like SST and adult education are fads. They are hardly fads. They are hardly fads, nor are art and music or any of the other art, literature or literature and reading. So we need a school that is responsive to parents and flexible enough to have the ability to move forward in a very complicated world. Thank you. Did I get that under 90 seconds? Because I almost never do.
You were successful. Good job.
Ms. Casey, my question to you is, there's been a lot of talk surrounding school rankings in our district. Could you define what quality education means to you?
Okay, so I have some notes on this because this is the question of the hour, and I'm trying to speak extemporaneously because I don't like to read things. Yeah, rankings. Okay, I have been a school board member for 9 years previous to this moment, and during that time, we had one of the highest ranking districts in the state. Does that mean we weren't aspirational in order to make it even better? No. And again, I'll go back to my original answer. Being aspirational as to our quality of education is different than actually having a process to bring that education to where we would like it to be. Having goals and setting goals as a school board member, extremely important. The best way to assess the quality of learning is to ask yourself this question. When our kids walk out of Exeter High School after spending this time with us, are they passionate about knowledge? Are they passionate about learning? Are they ready to meet the very complex world that we have before us? Are they open, creative? Are they critical thinkers? These are what I consider. Oh, I have 15 seconds. Yay! These are what I consider to be the most important parts of our educational system, and we should meet that with every student.
Thank you, Ms. Casey. At this point, we will move on to Ms. Meyer. And the first question for Ms. Meyer is, what existing programs in our district, whether academic, vocational, or extracurricular, would you work to expand and support as a member of the SAU 16 Co-op School Board?
Thank you so much for this question. So, I take existing programs to mean programs, initiatives, academics, extracurricular, the gamut. So first and foremost, the mental health support and social and emotional learning skills for our students is paramount. Or these are paramount. If children are not in their right learning brain, if they have other needs, they're not going to be able to really focus on education. So those first and foremost, as well as building a climate and a community for belonging, where everyone feels like they are a member and we're inclusive. Second, also competency-based education, not teaching to the test, not making sure that on the day of the test the kids know the answer, but making sure they have the skills needed to succeed in life, and that they're able to move at their own pace through our education system and be stretched and challenged. ELO's experiential learning is critical. I would expand exposure for career pathways and college readiness if that's the path that a child chooses. And that is so important to make sure that kids get hands-on learning. I would love to see every student exposed and experience an ELO. Also, I love the fact that we have dual enrollment, that a lot of our students can and they are able to earn college credits. I know my own children did. They had 6 or 7 credits when they went off to college, which was wonderful, if that's the road that you choose. So those are some of the areas that I would like to see expanded.
Fantastic. My question to you, Ms. Meyer, is have you sent all your kids to SAU 16 public schools? And if so, what is an aspect of our schools you have been satisfied with and you hope to implement on a wider scale? And if your children have not gone to our schools, why?
Thank you so much. I appreciate this question as well. So I have had 4 children go through SAU 16 public schools. One graduated high school in 16. One is a senior and one is a junior at Exeter High School. My second daughter went to Exeter High School, and in sophomore year, she chose to go to a private school, largely because she didn't want to be in the shadow of her older sister, honestly, and it was her choice, actually. So my kids have enjoyed and they speak highly of the education that they've received. I know my daughter, who works at Dana-Farber, regularly uses her notes from her biology courses and other science courses at Exeter High School, which is amazing to me. One aspect or several aspects that I'd like to see is, again, I'm so proud of our work in competency-based education. We are really leaders in this. And I know it takes a lot in terms of what we learned, or the way we learned, which was rote memorization and regurgitation. But really that competency-based education is preparing students to have the skills like critical thinking, communication, collaboration that employers need. It's both the hard skills, the academic rigor, but also the soft skills that employers need. I'm so proud too that we have a variety of courses and pathways. I'm super proud of SST, that you can leave our high school with a certified LNA, which is amazing, and a lot of our students do. We have a superb strength in sciences, and I know this, I speak to science because my daughter, as I said, is at Dana-Farber and really benefited. I love the fact that our teachers are willing to give help and support, and I know my high schooler currently goes after school quite a bit, and she's so appreciative of that. And again, the opportunity to earn this college.
Sorry, Kim, I have to cut you off.
Oh, no worries, no worries. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Meyer. We will now move on to Mr. Cahill. And the first question that we have for Mr. Cahill is, there has been a lot of talk surrounding school rankings in our district. Could you define what a quality education means to you?
Oh, sorry. For me, it's simply, are we preparing our children to go out into this world and be successful? Are we giving them the tools necessary to compete with students from all over the country and international students at the college and the university level? Or are they going to find themselves trying to play catch up and resenting their public education? We need a balanced education with athletics, core academics, and the arts, all balancing to create a well-rounded and prepared student to compete and flourish in the world. I believe we have some of the brightest students in the world. I believe it's our responsibility to give them those tools to be successful. I believe, for the second part of your question, I believe that standardized testing is the best measure of assessing the quality of the learning, but I don't think it's the only measure. Considering where we're coming out of a difficult year, 2 difficult years, where the learning environment was difficult to say the least, I think the concepts such as educational growth over the year will be very important. The look at how much an individual student improves over the course of a year. And thank you for the question, Alex.
The second question I have for you, Mr. Cahill, is how would you use a seat on the SAU 16 co-op board to ensure that students in the class of 2032 leave our schools best equipped to seek higher education, enter the workforce, or serve in our armed forces?
Thank you for the question, Will. I appreciate it. It's a great question. I would first increase my interactions with the concerned parents of the SAU 16. I think that's something that we've really gotten away from. I would make it a commitment to spend as much time as necessary on a weekly basis to get back to parents and address their concerns. I can't promise that I'm always going to agree on every topic, but I will make an effort to get back to every parent on every topic. These parents are at the forefront. They're seeing firsthand what is or is not working with their children. I think their perspective can be used to build a more detailed definition about what is or isn't proficient. And I believe that they should have a say in the regards to their children's curriculum. I simply believe the scope of proficiency has just become so broad, it's difficult to understand just how well our children are doing. What subjects do they need to focus on or to reach the high level of the higher level of proficiency? Also, now that we seem to be getting an semblance of a reprieve from this pandemic, I'd like to see more parents, teachers, in-person conferences throughout the year. And once again, thank you for the question.
Thank you, Mr. Cahill. The next set of questions will be directed towards Mr. Hall. The first question for you, Mr. Hall, is what are the best ways to assess the quality of the learning experience provided by our schools?
Thank you very much, Will. My answer to that would be something that, by the way, I'm the incumbent with the Kensington seat. I'm just finishing my 5th year on the board. And one of the things that happened during this last year is that the guidance counselors at the high school did a survey of their graduates, and they're going to automatically continue doing that. So the graduates of this year, next year, you folks will be contacted. And one of the very interesting things they asked was, how well prepared were you for college, business, going into the military? They got about 80 responses from the last class. And over those responses, and they were actually very, very positive. Exeter did prepare our students very well, and the people were succeeding in all the different environments that they chose to go in. So that's one thing, one way. But so that would be I would continue that program. I think it's a real asset. It's a real way of looking into the future and be able to sort of like a report card for the school. Thank you.
My question for you, Mr. Hall, is what do you view as the most prevalent issues facing SAU 16 schools and students today, and how are you distinctly qualified to create solutions?
Well, my job for 35 years was a special educator at Exeter High School. So going with that, I would say as we move out of this pandemic, we know it's taken a toll on our students. We're very fortunate to have an excellent special education department at Exeter High School that provides a lot of individual services for our students. We also have a 504 program for those students that need some additional help in different areas, which provides them. But I'm concerned mostly about the average student, the one that does not need special services, but has suffered or lost ground academically because of the pandemic. These students may have lost some basic skills, didn't move ahead enough, or just maybe need a little extra additional support. We have that support available. And those students, we want to make sure that we provide the services to catch them up. Also, the social emotional aspect of this pandemic has been costly, and we need to provide services especially for those students that felt isolated, for the last 2 years, that really didn't get into the, we had to wear masks and they weren't able to attend. I mean, our juniors and seniors, for example, all the programs that go with graduation for the last 2 years, we haven't been able to hold. That's a serious loss for those students. And I just want to make sure that we provide those students with just something extra, the benefit of moving ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. I believe that last minute, both Ms. Marr and Ms. Litchfield are unable to attend, so now we will move on to our last candidate, Ms. Hanlon. Ms. Hanlon, our first question for you is how would you use a seat on the SAU 16 Co-op School Board to ensure that students in the class of 2032 leave our schools best equipped to seek higher education, enter the workforce, or serve in our armed forces?
Thank you for the question, Alex. I think the most important role that the school board has is creating the vision and setting out the values for the district and providing support as needed for the staff and the administration. When I look at how we prepare, I apologize, my children just got home from hockey and I can hear them behind me. When I think about how we best prepare students for postgraduate experiences, I think it's making sure that we have really well-rounded, rich programming for them, that we have excellent academic supports and social emotional supports in place, and that we make sure we still inspire their interest and love for learning as they go all through our school system. I think one of the things I'd like to see change is some of the programs that we've cut back in the middle school. So kids only get 15 days of art instruction right now at CMS. They get half the world language instruction that they used to get. And I think both of those are really important places where we should be enriching students, not cutting back as we prepare students to move on in a global environment. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Just a quick reminder, if you're on the call, a panelist, make sure you're muted if you're not speaking, just so we don't get any feedback. Sorry for the interruption, Alex. Just wanted to check on that.
My question to you, Ms. Hanlon, is have you sent all your children to SAU 16 public schools? And if so, what is an aspect of our schools you have been satisfied with and you hope to implement on a wider scale? And if your children have not gone to our schools, why?
So I send my whole family to SAU 16 schools every day because my husband's a teacher in the district. And as I said at the beginning of the night, my two daughters, one is at the high school and one's at middle school. They've both been students within SAU 16 for their entire academic careers. When I think about the best resources SAU 16 has, it's undoubtedly the teachers. Every time I interact with my children's teachers over the years, I am so impressed by their dedication, their enthusiasm, and their really sincere desire to see all their students succeed. I think the way we amplify and build off of that dedicated staff we have is by making sure that they're involved in the changes that we're making and the assessments that we're doing on an ongoing basis to see what's working and what's not working. So a lot of times I've gone around and talked to a bunch of teachers over the past couple of months, and a lot of times they have really simple ideas of things that they think could be improvements, and they don't necessarily feel like they have an avenue to share those ideas right now. So I would like to see us include the teachers more as we are assessing what's working, what's not working, and how we can improve our programming in the SAU.
Great. Alex, if I'm not mistaken, we've gone through all of your questions. Is that correct?
We have, yes.
Wonderful. We do have a bunch of questions from the audience and not a lot of time. So I'm going to take facilitator's prerogative and say, look, we're going to try to get 2 in, but 30-second responses only. So let's be fast if we can.
Steve, we had a question. Excuse me.
Oh. Because in our policy that we set up front, we said that this is a forum, not a debate, and not to call out other candidates. We didn't know at this time if we wanted to see if one of the candidates would like to respond to being called out.
Okay, I think that's a no. So let's yes, is that true? Yeah. Okay. So
all right. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. So we'll try to get 2 questions in. Maybe we'll get 1 in. We'll see how we do, because we also want to give each of the candidates a minute at the end for a final statement. So the first question that's come up a couple times is regarding the Education Freedom Accounts law and program. And the question is, what is your position on that law, and what concerns or worries or opportunities do you see because of it? And again, this is for all of the candidates. So 30 seconds if you want to jump in. Go
So
ahead,
Steve,
yes.
I'm happy to go first. So, I mean, the first thing I'll say is the school board members don't necessarily get say in that because that's a legislative decision. But as a taxpayer and a community member and a parent, I am not in favor of the school voucher laws. However, I think the best thing we can do, if that is the direction that the state legislature is going to go in New Hampshire, is to make sure that our schools are the standard bearer in our community and that our families want to send their students to our schools. They're excited to send their students to our schools and that they know their students are going to get a fabulous education and succeed by going to our schools. And then we won't need to worry about anything coming down from the state legislature that potentially threatens to take students out of our system.
Great, thank you. Appreciate that, Melissa. Anybody else would like to jump in on this one? Kimberly.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, I too am not in favor of the freedom accounts. I believe in providing a strong public education, but for me, it's also a matter of equity. I believe that while these freedom accounts sound like a great deal, oftentimes the cost of a private school education is quite a bit more than the nominal amount that's being provided. So that really it doesn't provide opportunities for all students. And I also believe that everyone has the chance to have a strong public education and that we do make our schools the best. And we continue to have them be places where students are prepared for their future and are ready for whether that is college, work, or the military. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bob, did I see your hand go up? Yep, go ahead.
Yes, it is. Thank you very much. I'm 100% against those freedom accounts. And the major reason is that the American public education system is just that. It's public education. And it's guaranteed from preschool up through a high school diploma or to age 21. No private school will allow students in. They have a choice on who attends. Public education it's for the public. Everyone can attend. It's an American tradition. It's valued in schools around the world, which they had that ability. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Joseph, go ahead. And then Ted, I see your hand up after Joseph.
Sorry, I couldn't unmute. I don't know why. So I agree with everybody else on the panel so far, but I think we need to concentrate on public education and making our publication the best possible setting for these students to learn. I think that we can't take our eye off the ball. If we all put our efforts towards making it the best possible public education system, I don't think it'll be a non-issue because I think everybody would want to send their students to our public education institutions.
Thank you. And Ted, I see your hand up.
I think that we need to first recognize that the Education Freedom Act is an act of the legislature. And as school board members, we really don't have any say in that. But take that further, that the fear that it seems to engender in many people's minds is a false fear. Education deserves competition just as much as industry, and competition improves the quality of the competitors.
Great, thank you. I don't see any other hands up for that. Oh, yep, sorry, Kim, go ahead. I apologize.
I too was having trouble unmuting. I am not in favor of the school voucher program as it is written. It has some real weaknesses in regard to the way it provides an opportunity to know whether or not the district is getting fair value for their money when their money is being taken away from the public schools to be put into a private school. The other thing is that it turns the school system into, it balkanizes the school system. No children who have special education needs are oftentimes not part of the pool of children that are eligible to attend private schools. So that completely eliminates that group of students. I do agree with the other candidates. We make our schools great. Nobody's going to want to go anywhere else. I'm for that. It's hard not to be.
Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. With that, I think it's now time to turn to the final statements from the candidates. We're going to go in reverse order. Again, 1 minute for each candidate. If you have something that you have wanted to say that you haven't had a chance to say, please take that time now. And we'll start with Kimberly Myers.
Thanks again, Steve, and thanks to everyone for tuning in tonight. This has been a wonderful opportunity to hear from so many candidates. I am so proud of the leading work SAU 16 has been doing to help address inclusivity and social emotional learning, while also maintaining a focus on academic excellence. I welcome continuous improvement and a focus on what's working well and what we have to improve around academics. I have learned so much during my past 6 years on the board, and I will continue to learn and grow to serve our community while listening to all perspectives. Although I may disagree with some viewpoints, I always listen and consider the consequences to all. It's important to vote for board members who listen and have concrete plans and answers to resolve issues. I ask for your vote on March 8th, and thanks again for coming out tonight.
Great. Thank you, Kimberly. Next, Ted Lloyd.
Thank you. First, I'd like to just clarify one thing. The Seacoast School of Technology and the Adult Education program in the SAU are 2 of our 4 schools. They're certainly not programs that I had in mind when I was answering the question having to do with programs. Saying that, I hope that the voters of the SAU will vote for me and for the other like-minded candidates on the ballot so that we can effect change. Change is needed. From the majority, we can succeed in taking back our educational system. We can overhaul the board, listen to parents, comply with the rules. We can become much more transparent. We most importantly can drive the educational goals through the policies and budgets that we provide. So thank you, and please vote for Ted Lloyd.
Thank you, Ted. Melissa Hanlon.
Thank you very much to Alex and Will and the government group and the newspaper at the high school, to the women's group, and to New Hampshire Listens for hosting us tonight. And I think one thing I'd like to say is, I'm acutely aware of divisions in the community and concerns about politics. I have no political agenda coming into my candidacy for school board. I'm not interested in bringing any political agenda to the board if I'm elected. I am just a concerned mom and community member and taxpayer who thinks she can make a difference. And I sincerely hope that you will vote for me on Tuesday. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Melissa. Bob Hall.
Thank you very much for holding this forum. I begin by stating that I'm unique on the panel, and that is I don't have any children or grandchildren in the school system at this time. All the children of the school are my children right now. So I thank you very much. And I do care deeply about the Blue Hawks, Exeter High School, and the future. And that's where we're concerned with. And there's another thing that's happening right now on TV that all our students are seeing daily. And that is the tragedy of what's happening in the Ukraine. And that's going to take a toll. It takes a toll on us. It takes a toll on them. And we need to be aware that this world is changing minute by minute. And with that in mind, I ask people to step out Tuesday, come to the polls. Please re-elect Bob Hall as your Kensington representative, and I thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob. Kim Casey.
Thanks, Steve, and thank you to Alexander and Will for your excellent questions, and thank you to the Women's Club for helping put this on, and all of you. Asking for your vote on March 8th, Tuesday, or those of you not voting for me, obviously you're going on March 9th, so good. But I want to say a few things, and I hope I can do it in time. I've been on this school board for 8 years where there was a tremendous amount of contention. We built a new high school, and it was not an easy task. And at the end of the process, we won that warrant article by over 70%, which is phenomenal, I think, for a huge warrant article like the Exeter High School was. The reason I say that is I think I can bring people together. I've dealt with people. I know how to talk to people. I know how to listen. Please vote for Kim Casey on March 8th.
Thank you, Kim. And let's end with Joseph Cahill.
Thank you. And thank you, Alex and Will. You did a fantastic job. And when I was your age, I would not have done as good of a job. I'm just telling you that right now. That being said, you know, it's a tough process, this whole thing. And, you know, the incumbents are going to say that in, you know, rankings and attendance levels or enrollment levels rather don't mean anything, and those that are coming in are going to say that it is. This process has been truly eye-opening overall. I was surprised to see how politicized the role of school board really has become. I think it's really unfortunate, and my kids are not political topics, and nor will they ever be. I intend on working with all members of this board, regardless of their political perspectives, for the benefit of the students of the SAU 16. If you're looking for a politician for this role, I am not your guy. If that's not what you're looking for, I ask for your vote on March 8th. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Joseph, and thank you again to all the candidates for your willingness to run, to share your thinking with us tonight, and for the wonderful forum. And also thank you again to Alex and to Will and to Lucy and all of the students for helping put this together. And with that, I'm going to turn this back over for final thoughts to Mary and Carol.
Well, thank you for joining us this evening, and we hope that this forum has given you the insight into your candidates to help you to make your decisions. And once again, if you'd like to know more about the Exeter Area General Federation of Women's Clubs, you can go to our website at www.eagfwc.org. Thank you and good night.
Good night, everybody.